virtual teaching tools you can use anytime. One of the best things I find for teaching online is to use two screens, which I'm on right now. So when you see me turn like this, it just means I'm looking over at the other screen. Probably the most important thing that you'll want to know is that all resources, links are going to be available at this website. That's mrboll.com/COVID. Should be an easy one to remember. Also, you'll notice at the bottom it says my name and then the website address there. So every single slide will have that link there. So if you don't write it down right now, not a problem, because it'll be on every slide. I think I might even do a reminder in the end or something like that. These are the takeaways. So these are the things hopefully at the end you'll feel like you've learned something about and can benefit from. All right, let's talk about upgrading relationships and personal connections. So many of you probably have heard of this, Zoom, and probably a good load of you or a good number of you are on Zoom, or if you're using something like Google Meet, this will apply too. So any of these games and things that you can use on both of them. So Zoom is a super feature, and we'll talk more about some of the Zoom games in a moment. But other tools, just so you know, that you can use that I find incredibly helpful for me when I'm doing teaching and helpful for teachers that I work with are Canva, Bitmoji, and Kahoot, which we'll talk about later. Canva, if you're not familiar with it, is a super duper easy graphic design program that's on the web. They're now giving away a free educator version, which is nice because you can get access to some of their wonderful graphics that they have. So I use that to create graphics for things like what you're seeing here. I use it for web pages or for Keynote or PowerPoint presentations, or just general graphics that I want the kids to see just to make my virtual classroom a bit more interesting. Now, what you're seeing on the left, you may be familiar with as well, is Bitmoji. And Bitmoji has become super popular for teachers doing virtual online types of teaching. So it's great. You put yourself in there, and then you add words and things around it, like Zoom games in this case. And it just adds some flavor for the kids. I teach middle school. They love it. I know elementary does. And high school students love it too. They just probably don't admit that they love it. And when it comes to Kahoot, we'll talk about that in a few slides from now. All right. So here's how I like to use Zoom games. And I'll show you some examples in a moment. But I use it for beginning of class warm-ups and to charge my class as interest fades, and then to check for understanding. Now, in today's world, video is done in such a way that about every 15 to 30 seconds, or in a movie maybe longer, they do something to pull you in and get your attention and grab you again. And so kids are used to like seeing something, and then within a minute or whatever, they'll have something that'll grab them and pull their attention back in. And so we struggle as educators to deal with that. And for teaching our class and we're speaking like I am to you right now, people start to fade pretty quickly. So you need something to pull them back in. And Zoom games really help with that. Here's how I use it at the beginning of class for warm-ups. So you can see my students are there on the right. I have a lot of students in Thailand, so I have lots of different kinds of names. And what I do is I have them go down the list. I give them this list. So this is their names in alphabetical order or a random order. And I give them this list, I share it with them. And I say, okay, I want you just to say here, but using the list that you see there. So Pepper goes here first, then Adrian, then Nathan, then Puffo, then Justin, then William, then Pippin, etc. That way I'm not going Pepper, 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 huh, what? And it forces them then to pay attention to where they are in the list. And I do the same thing then with asking questions. So I might say, what is your most unusual talent? And they just have to say it. They have to say, Pepper says it, then Adrian says it, then Nathan says it, etc. Before like I mentioned, I was always calling out their names, and then lots of times it didn't seem like they were there. Where this seemed to really help quite a bit, in that they were responsible for being the ones to be ready to go to answer a question. So other questions like, what animal would be the most terrifying if it could speak, and if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be? Obviously, there's zillions of types of questions there. And it's a great way to start the class for me and to get it going. And then after a class or two, the kids are used to it and they just follow along right away. And they say, hey, where's the list? And what's the question? And away they go. So of course, they appreciate that consistency. Thing I like to use for checking for understanding is there is that yes, no option, which now I can't see my Zoom screen right now because I have my presentation up. But you may notice that up on probably the right side, there should be a chance for you to click yes or no and go slower, go faster, which I actually don't use. I just use the yes and no. So that gives me a chance to quickly scan. If I say, hey, does everybody understand the instructions, or does everybody know what page to go to next, or whatever? And that lets me know whether they're paying attention. If they don't say yes or no at all, that's actually kind of what I'm looking for is those kids. And then I can say, hey, bring them back in and try to get them some attention. All right, let's give a try on a quick Zoom game here. And that's something I might use at the beginning of class, and depending on the age of the kids, or I might use it in between, let's say a pause in between or during a lesson of some sort. So here it is. Hopefully everybody's ready. If you have a pen or paper, that'd be great. If you don't, that's fine too. Just kind of take a look. So I'd say, how about this one? I spy aliens. So take a few moments here to spy some aliens. How many 2 aliens are there? How many blue aliens? How many aliens doing a handstand, 2-eyed alien, 3-eyed alien, etc. So we'll do this for approximately 1 minute and we'll see if we can get the numbers. Ready? And go. This works well for middle school as well. High school, you could probably do it once or twice before they got tired of something that goofy like this. Elementary, of course, you can do it forever. Okay, so that's about it. So you get the idea, you gives them, just pulls them back in. When you've been doing lots of instruction, they start to fade away. Maybe you guys have faded away now, or maybe now you're pulled back in because you had to do the I spy aliens. All right, let's go on to the next slide here. For resources, these are all available on my website. And this presentation is available on the website. And this is a link off to all the resources. And you can see these are Zoom activities specifically here. And as I come along and see more of them, I just keep adding them. So I'm using Digo, which you might be familiar with, which is an easy social bookmarking site. That lets me just, as I come across things, I can go ahead and just add them there. All right, so that's how I like to use Zoom. You could use Google Meet to do it the same way. It doesn't really matter. I think Zoom's just a little bit easier to use, but both of them will do sort of the same thing. All right, let's talk about improving interaction and engagement. My absolute favorite, of course, is Kahoot, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. But the additional options you have here are Woo Clap, and these are all linked, and you can see this in the presentation. They're also on my website. Woo Clap's a little more mature, I might say, than Kahoot is. There's Socrative, which is another way of taking polls and asking kids to answer questions along the way. Mintmeter does basically the same thing. Edpuzzle I'll talk about later, which is more video generated. So students watch videos and they answer questions along those videos. And then as we talked about already, Zoom games. So these are ways to increase interaction and engagement. Here's Kahoot. That's what it looks like. So you have these different options. You have the quiz one, which is probably what I use the most. True or false, open-ended questions where they have to type in the answer, and we'll try that today. A puzzle, which is fun, where you have to drag the different images or whatever and put it in the correct order. A poll or a slide. Kahoot's pretty easy to use, but it takes effort to put this stuff together. And you have to design all this stuff and think of the ideas and all that. Now, inside Kahoot, it's pretty neat because there's plenty of already done presentations. And if you do one yourself, you can share it with the crowds or the other educators if you want to, so that they can pull it down and use it. So there is all that there, but there's a lot to it. So Kahoot has a bit of a learning curve in that you have to, again, create all the content and put it up there. And once you've done that, then you're all set. But prior to that, that might seem like it'll take a fairly large amount of work. All right, let's give it a try. Okay, so you can see here's where I set it up. And I'm gonna hit the classic button here. The questions you'll see on my end, you won't see, and you'll just see the opportunity to answer on your side. So that's where it's a little tricky for the kids. They have to have Kahoot open and they have to have Zoom open so they can see both. Here we go. So I'll go ahead and start it. Here we go. Check for understanding. 3, 2, 1, and here we go. Type the answer. In one word, what is the best idea for teaching during COVID? In one word, what is the best idea for teaching during COVID? Go ahead and type your answer. 18 seconds left to go. If you haven't played Kahoot before, it is competitive. All right, 48 answers. That tells me just about everybody answered. And the correct answer is retirement. And nobody got that right. Oh, that's too bad. All right, maybe the next one will be a little bit easier. But yeah, look at that. Kayla is on top with 0, followed by Anna with 0, and Becky, etc. Now, if anybody gotten that right, there'd obviously be points there. I think you might get the next one right. Let's see. Here's a poll. Teaching during COVID is, which of the following? Is it easy? Is it impossible? Not too bad? Or is it we are still teaching? 12 seconds left to go. You can see you can add a graphic there. You guys are much quicker with that. And there we go. Yes, 26, I think, might even be the correct answer. Let's see. Next one is, what does the HOL and HOL.edu stand for? Does it stand for Holy Oak Lane, Heritage Online, Harry Only Lies, or Help Organize Legumes? Again, this is a great way to pull kids back in. I'll have kids take a break after, let's say, 30 minutes, and then we'll do a quick Kahoot afterwards, which then they're all excited and then they kind of seem to be a little more enthusiastic for class. Yes, the correct answer was Heritage Online. Only one, looks like 3, 4 people got it wrong. And we'll see the score here. Look at that, Jen on top. Now, the faster you answer, the more points you get. And now we'll see on the podium who the big winner is. In third place, it's Steve with 3 out of 4 correct. Followed by Hof. And in first place, we have Eileen. Congratulations, Eileen. Did very well today. You can see the 2 runner-ups. All right, so that is Kahoot right there. I'm going to go ahead and close that up and go back to the presentation. And I was able to see, and I can't hear you guys, but I can see you, and I definitely saw more smiles and enthusiasm and things like that when we were doing Kahoot. So if we could basically use games and quiz games the entire time we teach, wouldn't that be perfect? Although unrealistic. I do a full review of Kahoot and also some other stuff at mrboll.com/COVID. So a more detailed one there. All right, now we talk about interactive content delivery. And the feature tool for this is Edpuzzle. You can use Kahoot, of course, like which we just talked about. And you can use, by the way, I didn't mention Kahoot in an asynchronous way. So you can set up these things for kids to answer the questions, but that doesn't have to be live like it was right now. So if you're in a teaching situation like that, where kids are working asynchronously sometimes, you can do that using Kahoot. This is Edpuzzle. And Edpuzzle is great for these reasons. It can force students to watch lectures you have filmed. So you can remove the skip ahead option. So they have to watch you. Now, maybe they'll walk out of the room, I don't know, but they have to watch you. It's also really good, again, for asynchronous learning because you can have it set up for them to go at any time. Works well with Google Classroom if you want to disconnect it. You can check for understanding while they watch a story. You are reading, so if you read a story, you can stop and ask them a question. Check for understanding on a set of video instructions you just gave. So if you're doing asynchronous stuff and you need to give video instruction, you can have them respond that yes, they understood it, or maybe the specific question as to what page am I supposed to read, or I don't know, whatever. And for example, in math, you can have students stop, work on a math problem you gave, and then continue. All right. These are the types of questions, not a lot, just multiple choice question, open-ended, or you can leave a note regarding something in the video, like, hey, did you see the cat in that video? Something like that. All right, let's see it in action here. And I'll play just a few seconds of it. Here we go. Hey everybody, I took a break from skiing just so I could talk to you about today's assignment, but you can see my buddies are still skiing there behind me. All right, here I am at mrboll.com. Okay, so you see how it stopped there, and it has a little note that says, yes, indeed, I do like skiing. Believe it or not, you don't do a whole lot of skiing in Bangkok, which is where you would normally go to find your assignments. I think you know how to get to this page. Here's March 17, 2020. The warm-up for today is the normal one, which is you watch this video, which hopefully you're doing right now. Next is to complete the assignment for slides 18 through 23 as we. And there's a sample question, what slides did I say? And that's where they punch in 18 through 23. So there's all these options that I don't use, such as grading and all that. You can do grading internally within it. Mostly I just use it to keep kids on track and check for understanding and just to add a bit of variety. So that is Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle, last I knew, had a free upgrade that was available for teachers. Same with Kahoot. They had a free upgrade as well during COVID. Although often they said that will end with the end of the school year under the assumption that COVID would be over, but apparently it's not going to be over. All right, assessment and feedback. This is my favorite tool to use for assessment, Flipgrid, because I can give either an email assessment when the students upload their work, or I can give a video reply back, which is nice too. It takes a lot more work. It's taxing to give a video feedback to 20 different students. I mean, it's quite draining to do it. You just don't get that same feedback that you get when you see somebody live where they're smiling and you're enjoying your time with them. But the kids really like it, and they've told me they feel like I'm in the room. I don't know, maybe it's because I have a good microphone, I'm not sure, but it seems to work for them. Other things to use are Screencastify, which apparently I misspelled as Screennastify. That's kind of funny. Loom, Google Docs. Now, Google Docs has options, which I'm sure you know inside of it, where you can leave and type feedback, but it also has audio feedback options in there. There's plugins you can get for that. And another one, Vocaroo.com, which is a voice one that you give to. Again, all this stuff will be available at mrboll.com/COVID. All these links should be there along with this presentation. A lot of you probably have used Flipgrid. If you haven't, it's one of my absolute favorite. Here's a bunch of tips. I don't want to read them all, but for pre-K through university, family learning, high school, etc. So I use it again for video feedback for me. I love to use it for exit tickets from students. So at the end of the assignment or end of the work, if they're working independently during the class, before the class is over, they go and they give me an exit ticket. And I get to see them, and then I give them a quick feedback if I want on that exit ticket. I did actually struggle a bit to get all students to do those exit tickets. You know, I have pretty easygoing students where I am at an international school. They're not really that hard at all at a private school like what we have. But it was always tricky to get them to do exit tickets. And I use it to collect work, especially if they're doing any kind of video stuff. As a film teacher, they upload their video. It's quite simple. Maybe I'm just lucky in that regard. Here's what it looks like. So it's super easy to use. You put whatever you want in here, along with, they have an option to put in a good little graphic. Kids just hit the plus button here. And then they have to log in with their Google account. And so it's in a walled garden in that way. So nobody else can see it except people inside of the class. And it turns up like this. And they leave a little video, and then they have to leave a screenshot or a selfie of themselves. Okay, here now I'm done. And then a screenshot or a selfie of themselves. And then here's my selfie. I get it. Oh, that's terrible. Oh my gosh. And then it gets uploaded and away they go. So it's a great, probably what I use it for the most, or at least in every class, was the exit ticket. Because this gave me a feel of how the kids were feeling, because it's kind of hard to tell when you're looking at a screen all the time. Yeah, so hopefully I haven't talked to you too much about stuff you already know, but you haven't given you some of the other ideas or additional ways to use it as well. And then just general, we're kind of coming towards the end of our time here, is resources. Again, at mrboll.com, you'll see the more detailed reviews that I have of things like Kahoot, WooClap, and screencasting with QuickTime. Basically, because as a technology coach, I've been helping the teachers, and then what I do is I just post it on a blog. And then so we have all this stuff here that I can share with you as well. I will be teaching a course. It's just about done, just waiting for some final approval, called Virtual, Physical, and Hybrid Classroom Teaching Tools and Strategies. So it goes into what you see here, but in much more detail, and then forces you to use the tools, right, as part of the assignment, so that at the end, though, you'll come out with, hey, this is cool. I can actually use this for my classroom. And hopefully you'll find it something that would be actionable if you were interested in something like that. All in all, I just, you know, when this all started, it was pretty horrifying. I mean, but we've become so much better at it than we were before all this happened. And the hope would be that we get to use these things not just during this difficult time, but that later on. I mean, all these tools were designed before COVID, so they were designed to enhance your classroom work. And so, you know, maybe a year from now, we're going to look back and say, dang, that was kind of a pain, but I've definitely got a better tool belt, a set of tools and skills than I did in the past. And we look at it as positive, or we can just have PTSD and do our best to recover. So who knows? But either way, they'll be helpful. And if you're feeling sad, you can always just play a lot more Kahoot games if you want to. So thank you so much for your time today. I think we're going to move on to questions and things like that right now.